The past 2 years have been highly bullish from a fundamental standpoint for crypto, but Ethereum as well as the broader altcoin space have largely lagged behind, and most people have suffered on the losing end of the trade, even though we're supposed to be having this altcoin super cycle. What's going on, guys? It's CryptoDave here with the top tier, and in this video, I want to break down my current thoughts on Ethereum from a price action perspective and discuss whether or not I think Ethereum is giving us a great buying opportunity, or if it is in fact actually dead and gone like many people speculate. Guys, this is going to be a two-part video. We're going to be focusing on the technicals in this video and the fundamentals in the second video. So definitely subscribe to the channel and tick the little bell. You'll get notified with every single post, and you'll be able to catch part 2 of this video as well. Without any further ado though, guys, let's go ahead and jump into the video. So we're going to spend a good deal of time here on the Ethereum Bitcoin chart, specifically on the weekly time frame, just to give us an overall look at how Ethereum has performed against Bitcoin throughout some of the different phases of our previous market cycle. You're going to notice a very expansive period of time for Ethereum all throughout 2017 going into 2018. This was the first major expansive move for altcoins where the Ethereum ICOs were going crazy. There was a lot of speculation, a lot of new alt layer ones popping up. A lot of the core concepts for DeFi and for the broader altcoin sector were introduced during this period of time, and Bitcoin as an asset alone was also being legitimized by the mainstream media. It had just come fresh off of a very expansive bull market. So this was the period of time for altcoins to hit the scene and get that maximum level of early speculation. Now, as we fast forward into our most recent market cycle, taking us from 2019 all the way through to 2021, of course, the main driver of this was the massive monetary stimulus received by major federal governments across the globe, primarily here in the United States. There was massive monetary stimulus, which would eventually lead to a lot of inflation, and most risk-on assets performed extremely well, regardless of the actual tangible, real-world value that was offered by these assets. And the key takeaway here is that Ethereum, as well as a lot of other older cryptocurrencies, never returned to new all-time highs on their Bitcoin pairings, right? We notice here that Ethereum essentially stalled out around this 0.0845 level, which was a previous level of resistance back in 2018, and we can see 3 separate instances at different points in time where price came up to this range and got a clean rejection, showing that sellers were gaining control at this level of resistance, and that Ethereum was not exactly going to flip Bitcoin just yet. Now, of course, anything can happen well down in the future, but a big conversation back in the last cycle was that Ethereum was going to flip the market cap of Bitcoin, and that Ethereum was going to essentially be the world's leading crypto asset. And I'm not going to waste too much time speculating on that in this video. Of course, there's always the possibility at some point down the road that any cryptocurrency dethrones Bitcoin, but that was the major narrative at this point in time. Ultimately, Ethereum against Bitcoin was entering a broad multi-year distribution pattern where sellers were taking control, and that optimism and that risk-on attitude with Ethereum and the broader altcoin space was going to shrink compared to Bitcoin. Right, the first bear market here, which took place essentially from Q4 2021 all the way through to 2022, Ethereum, of course, lost a ton of ground against Bitcoin, and the entire space was in shambles, right? USD pairs were collapsing across the board. Bitcoin itself was performing poorly. Equities were not performing well, right? It was a period of time that did not favor risk on assets at all, and naturally, we had a big drawdown for Ethereum BTC. But here's where things get interesting. After the bear market was over and a lot of optimism and capital started to return to the crypto space and specifically to Bitcoin, Ethereum set in this third retest of the aforementioned range of resistance. We failed once again, and we slowly but surely exited this distribution pattern in a slow downward bleed. And I think a lot of people got trapped because at some point you expect the bleeding to stop, right? You expect some support to be found, right? Potentially this 0.05 level coming into play. We did get some small reactions here, right? But nothing to take us above our trend line, nothing to get us past the 21 and the 50 weekly EMA cloud, which we saw a bearish cross back here in March of 2023, right? So it was very clear that the money was trading hands and that the capital in the space, the focus of risk-on behavior, was leaving Ethereum and ultimately leaving the altcoin space in general. Now, we have seen a lot of outliers this cycle already. We've seen coins like Pepe, a lot of meme coins, a lot of AI and RWA coins, right? New narratives have led the charge at different phases during this market cycle, but Bitcoin, as you guys can recall from some of our previous videos, has not let up. In the past 2.5 years, Bitcoin leads on the way up, Bitcoin leads on the way down, and we get these small windows of time to speculate on alts in between, right? But for Ethereum specifically, it has been nothing more than a slow bleed, taking out any sort of level of support that you would potentially expect could come into play. We haven't seen any true bullish follow through on any of the small upswings that we have had. It's just been a very, very ugly image for Ethereum, where most people were otherwise expecting Ethereum and the broader altcoin space to hold up very well. And I think a big problem has to do with some of the influence in this space. There are too many people that will knowingly show you the top or be telling you, urging you to buy, convincing you that you don't have the time to get yourself exposed, when they themselves, as experienced traders, know that the bull trend is likely coming to a close. You get a lot of people telling you that the altcoin super cycle is here and that it's still memes and it's still AI and that the narratives that were juiced up in 2023 and 2024 are still the way to go, even though they've been in a drawn out bear market themselves for quite some time, right? We have to stray away from some of the emotional influence in this space. We have to get back to the basics and ask ourselves, what is the data telling us? What can we learn by simply looking at the chart and assessing some of these technical factors, some of these psychological factors as well? And I think if you've been doing that, you've probably stayed primarily away from altcoins. You've probably kept most of your exposure into Bitcoin, into stables, and you've probably been pretty successful over the past couple of years. Now, I do want to take the focus back to the ETH-BTC ratio. We're going to take a look at this third circle that we have down here. This is our most recent price action, the last couple of months for Ethereum versus Bitcoin. Once again, just a dramatic bleed with no sort of bid, no sort of support, and of course the USD pair has been crushed as well. But you'll notice that we have come back down in line with our previous bear market lows without any sense of relief on the ratio for a couple of years. And I think at this point, when you assess statistics, probabilities, risk versus reward, I do think that you actually have a very favorable setup here. Now, I'm certainly not urging everyone to go buy Ethereum and to invest a bunch of money in this, that, and the third, and that now is the perfect time to buy. None of that is what I am suggesting, but I am suggesting that from a risk to reward standpoint, after a multi-year distribution, after a multi-year bleed against Bitcoin, as Bitcoin is reaching the later stages of a market cycle, we have tagged some very significant levels for Ethereum BTC. And even though Ethereum might not get its time to shine in this cycle specifically, we might be reaching a nice discount territory for Ethereum versus Bitcoin. And if we put this in context with Ethereum to USD, we can see that the past few months have been absolutely destructive, as I previously mentioned, a 66% decline from top to bottom in just a few short months, whereas Bitcoin only corrected to the tune of 30%. And more importantly, we have come down to our 2023 lows that extend from back in October of 2023, even back in the spring of 2023, right around this $1,400 mark. Took some liquidity. We're now getting some slight relief here over the past couple of weeks. I think at a certain point, when you're playing the game of long-term investment and long-term speculation, you do reach a point in time where an asset is simply too cheap or too expensive, regardless of what the fundamental discussion about the asset is. And guys, we're going to cover Ethereum from a fundamental standpoint in part 2, but just from a technical perspective, right? Just considering price action and the things we know about technical analysis, the things that we know about risk and reward, I do think you're getting to a very nice discount range, both when it comes to the USD pair as well as the Bitcoin pairing. And I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments. Are you bullish on Ethereum? Do you think another alt L1 is going to come in and steal the show? Do you think Ethereum's heyday is over? I'm very interested because this seems to be a pretty controversial topic. A lot of people have different opinions. And once again, guys, in the next video, I will be giving you my fundamental opinion on Ethereum and whether or not I think it is a good investment from a fundamental standpoint versus a simple technical standpoint. And guys, if you want to follow along with my updates, ask me questions, and get to know me, you can join the Discord in the description below. We'll help get you started, we'll help get you learning and earning, and you can also interact with the 30+ premium trading analysts we have between stocks, crypto, and Forex to help you better your trading game. Guys, until the next video, I will catch you in the Discord. Peace.